All right, guys. So thank you so much for coming tonight. Can everybody in the back hear me? I know this room has weird acoustics. Ruben says we're good, so we're good. I'm Sean Duffy. I'm the founder and organizer of EdTech Austin. You're here at EdTech Austin at Capital Factory, so hopefully you parked, you got all that stuff squared away. By the way, I mentioned that because if you parked in the Omni Garage, we have parking vouchers that will give you $5 parking instead of whatever it would have otherwise been. So if that's you, talk to us before the end of the night. A Capital Factory staff member can provide that for you. So we're on kind of a tight schedule tonight. We have some really, really awesome presenters. So I want to walk you through our agenda. Check in and mix and mingle. You guys have done that so far, so way to go. Thank you for doing that. We'll go through a couple of updates, some announcements, things happening in the community that we want to make you aware of. Following that, we have our awesome presentations. We're going to do 2 presentations, a short break, and then follow that up with Pen Pal Schools. They're actually at another event right now. They're double booked, so but they'll be coming in a little bit later with Joe Troyan and Mark Danforth. We'll have a break in between so you can continue to eat and drink. And following that, we will do our lightning round and open networking. When you signed in up front, there is a lightning round sheet on a clipboard. And if you didn't have a chance to sign up for that, I'll talk about it in just a minute so that you can get on that list. Also, I should mention to tweet at us throughout the night. Anything you post to the hashtag EdTechATX, everybody can go on and see. And that will also play into the lightning round when we get to that later as well. Also tweet at us at EdTech Austin. Hopefully, if we've done it right, you can find us through at EdTech Austin on Facebook, Meetup, obviously you found us, and then also on Twitter. All right, so a couple of introductions, thank yous, and so forth. So what is EdTech Austin? How many of you guys are here for the first time? This is your first meetup? Awesome, that's like more than half the room, very cool. So EdTech Austin, we've been doing this now for over 2 years. It's a community meetup group to talk about the confluence of education and technology, as the name implies. We've kind of grown to a little bit more than that. We've talked about public policy, we've done workshops, we've done demo days. Pretty much if it falls within the borders of education and technology, we want to talk about it, we want to share with the community, and be a platform for the community here in Austin. We're part of kind of a larger network of EdTech meetups around the country and around the world. Really excited to be one of the biggest communities for EdTech in the world. And we'll talk more about that in South by Southwest EDU and how we were a part of that this year. Before that though, thank you to our sponsors. Big sponsor is Capital Factory, providing the space. Really great organization. If you don't know about Capital Factory, you should learn about it. If you're an entrepreneur, you're looking for office space, they're a really great company, and you're in their space now. So see somebody at the front desk or go to any of their events that they have. Also, thank you to Pearson for sponsoring. They provide funding for food and beverages, which is really nice to have. So thank you so much for that. And also thank you to Bridge Partners, who has recently joined as one of our sponsors. If you are interested in sponsoring a meetup, we're not a nonprofit, but we're not doing this for money. We're all volunteers. Myself, Scott Lipton, a couple of other awesome organizers who have helped us through the meetups and other events that we do here in Austin. So contact me if you're interested in sponsoring and if you want to present. So a couple of things, the lightning round. We'll give you 1 minute at the end of tonight's program to talk about whatever it is that you're working on. If you want to share with others, connect with other people, you're looking to hire a developer, you need to talk to schools, whatever it is that you're looking to do, you've got 1 minute to pitch it. If it takes longer than a minute, talk to me about presenting at a future meetup. And we have a couple of people who've expressed an interest in our May meetup, but we're still looking for folks to present at that. We do have some stuff going on in June for Immigrant Heritage Month with Forward, which is another really great organization here in Austin. So I would encourage you to take this time to check in on Meetup. Feel free to write a review after our Meetup, tell people what you think of it, invite your friends. Next time, that sort of thing. Also, you will have an opportunity, you'll have plenty of opportunities tonight to talk to the folks around you, so I hope you take that and set up a coffee date or something like that. I wanted to mention a couple of things for South by Southwest EDU. This organization, EdTech Austin, and also the spin-off of EdTech Austin, which is EdTech Action, an incubator for EdTech companies. We had lots of really cool stuff at the conference, and we hope to do more of that next year as well. So I just wanted to put that out on your radar. We had an awesome time. I know a lot of you guys were involved in the events. I see a number of familiar faces in the crowd. So that was a really great time, and I know we have a few events coming up that I would love for you all to be involved in. The first is Startup Weekend. We're looking at July 10th to the 13th. We were planning on doing it in May, but with teacher schedules, it wasn't going to work out. So if you don't know about Startup Weekend, 54 hours to take an idea from Friday night, pitch an idea, and work throughout the weekend and build an actual startup in education. We've done 2 events in Austin so far, but there are startup weekends all over the world. And the ones that we have here in Austin are really great, have lots of really awesome people at them, entrepreneurs, developers, designers, and educators. And so we'll have more information about that coming out soon, so keep an eye on your email for info about Startup Weekend. A couple of other big things going on here in town. It's been my passion to bring a platform for this community in education, and there are so few organizations that really bring together educators, and I'm so excited that there are a couple of more great meetups that you guys can join, and a couple of folks. I'm not sure if Emily is here, but I can talk a little bit about it. So I wanted to introduce Hal Speed, just real quick. Hal, if you can tell us a little bit about your meetup.
Sure. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I started a new meetup to bring together a similar community, but focus on computer science and education. So bringing together industry, educators, teachers, administrators, parents, government officials, the chamber, the Austin Technology Council, really just anyone that's interested in this problem of how do we teach the next generation of students computer science, technology, and literacy at all grades, K through 12. So we meet on the second Wednesday, so I kind of spaced it out between this meetup group and our meetup group. Right now we're meeting at the Microsoft corporate office, so our next meeting is going to be May 13th. You can find us on Meetup or at the URL that'll just resolve to the Meetup site, and I have stickers for everybody. Make sure you see me throughout the evening, and I'll be happy to give you one. Thanks.
Awesome, thanks, Hal. One other one, and Emily will probably be here in a little bit, but Emily Weirtz, she is a really great member of our community and actually helped organize EdTech Austin in the early days. Super cool, and she has started the Maker Ed Meetup along with a guy named Mike DeGraff, who works for the University of Texas in their UTeach program, which is teaching educators and training them to be STEM educators. So they have a really awesome meetup. Their next meetup is actually tomorrow night. It's kind of a member mix and mingle, so check them out on meetup.com, the Austin Maker Ed Meetup. And then one final note, if any of you all are looking for a job, or if you know anybody who would be a good fit for a campus instructional technology position, there is a position posted for Del Valley High School, which is I worked at Del Valley for about a year. Scott Lipton, former principal, in the house as well. So if any of you guys know somebody, shoot me an email and let me know. I know some of the folks who are part of that process for hiring. So yeah, contact me. All right. So a couple more things. I just wanted to go over our presenters for tonight and kind of set the tone for the evening. I promise the boring stuff is almost over. You're going to have plenty of opportunities for really cool hands-on stuff. Our presenters for tonight, Nick Hahn from Austin Spark League, a friend of mine and a really great presenter and member of the community. Valerie Kislovsky, did I say that right? Kislovsky. Anyway, so Val is going to talk to you guys as well, focusing on the idea of education as more than just getting a job. And then finally, Pen Pal Schools with Joe. They will be here in a little bit, and they have a really cool activity plan for you guys as well. All right. So for tonight's topic, I just wanted to get you guys thinking about this. This is obviously Nick and Val and I and Joe have had a number of conversations leading up to tonight's meetup. And honestly, I also just wanted to say that this is kind of how the presentations at our meetups happen. I love talking with you guys. So if you ever want to grab coffee and talk about like, hey, what if? I love doing that. So Val and Nick and I had a great conversation, and we were talking about this idea of education being more than just getting a job. It's obviously we as the kind of people who come to these meetups, we're engaged in learning when we need to be engaged, and whether that's something that we need to learn for, I just learned recently about replacing a tree that was knocked down in the storm on Saturday. And so I was thinking about that idea, and it doesn't always involve technology. Obviously, this is a technology meetup. So I want you guys to kind of have that in the back of your mind, but also be open to really what education is actually all about, what it should be about, how technology can help facilitate learning. And then also just this question, why do we use technology? I ask that all the time, especially talking to a lot of EdTech startups is, why are you using the technology? Is it there because it's aiding or facilitating learning, or is it there just because it's technology for technology's sake? So just some kind of big ideas to think about as you hear tonight's presentations, and certainly something that as a community, I hope that we're all conscious of and thinking about when we go out there in the world and develop new tools for education. All right, and so with that, I will turn it over to Nick.
Cool. Hey everybody, I'm Nick. I might trip over this tonight, so just pre-warned, I'm not used to this thing being presented here a few times for Lean Startup and a couple other meetups. So I'm not used to it, so I might just walk backwards and fall over. Pre-warning. All right, so tonight I'm going to talk to you about education, as we should be doing in this space. Do you have my clicker? Do you still have it? Sorry. Yeah, thanks. All right. So in today's world, education has a more important job than just getting you a job. It's got a much more important role in today's kids that are in school and even in higher education. So first of all, I'm not an educator. I'm not an expert in education. I haven't done years of education. And so I'm pretty new to it. I'm a novice, but I like learning new things. And I really, really love to share my knowledge. So I've had the pleasure of being a mentor several times, and I love helping people along the path that I feel like I've been paving in my life, and people that are following me in that path or trying to do similar things, helping them not trip up on the same things I tripped up. I haven't had a lot of mentors in my life, so I'm trying to fill that gap for people that also haven't had mentors. What I am is a designer, and what I mean by designer is not a make things look pretty designer, although I do try to do that, but there's people that are far better than that than I am. What I do in design is I get hired by clients to discover kind of complex problems. People that I used to be involved in kind of doing simple stuff like websites and tablet apps, but now I'm doing more complicated things where I'm doing business process and stuff where I have to go and unwind a problem and then design an intricate solution for that. And as most things in life, we've got a very tight constraint of time and money for those. So it's an extremely fulfilling job. I feel like I've been lucky and blessed and have had some really great people in my life that have helped me get here. But I didn't get here through something I learned in school. I wasn't sitting in class one day and they said, you can be a design strategist and here's what a design strategist does, right? It just wasn't on my radar. And maybe the job didn't exist, and that's kind of the challenge that some of us are facing of thinking about in 15 years from now. When our kids, or 10 years or 5 years, what are the jobs going to be when they get in the workforce? So it all started when I was 18. I worked in technology sales. This is the beginning of my path when I had a revelation about what I could possibly be doing with my life. I worked at a lovely company that sold computers in these awesome boxes. I don't know if any of you remember this great company. They're still around technically, but you probably haven't heard of them anymore. And the boxes were really fun. I wish I had the inspiration to do that when I worked there, because it would have been great to make some big cows. But what I realized is I was a commission salesperson, and I wasn't great at being the top salesperson. I was also young. But I was great at connecting people with the right technology, the right solutions, right? So I had a lot of happy customers, and I felt really great about it. So people would come in, they'd tell me what they want, usually. I would kind of reverse engineer what they're saying and figure out what they need, and then help them get that. And when they walk out of the store, they've got something that they can set up at home and be really happy with it. And what I didn't realize at the time is that's actually a valuable commodity. That's something that people that can understand technology also don't always have the skills to understand people and how to communicate that technology. So I've been fortunate enough to have that skill, and now that I know it, I'm trying to work on making it better. It was also commission sales, which was really bizarre for an 18-year-old. So nowadays I have a much more refined process, and this refined process might be something some of you have heard of. I'm not going to ask you to raise your hands, but it's a process called Lean. There's Lean Startup, Lean UX. There's a lot of buzz in the startup world about this the last 5 or 6 years. And I've really taken it to heart with my client work and my own personal projects. And what this means is to take really large, complex problems, find out what really the smallest building blocks are, build something, test it or measure it, and then learn from it. It's an iterative process. So if you haven't heard of this, there's a ton of documentation. I highly recommend looking into it. It's kind of one of those great methodologies you can apply to learning how to cook or building something from scratch. It's a really nice way to think about solving problems. So the goal here is to learn quickly. So you're not making an assumption about what you think you know, planning that out, and then executing based on old, stale knowledge about who you used to be. And that's the funny thing is, all of you, if you've ever, let's say you started a project today, the you of today, sitting in the seat, is the dumbest version of you that you could possibly have, right? Every single day and minute and hour and month, you become smarter. And so the you of a month from now will look back at the you from a month ago and go, God, that idiot, why did he plan it that way? I really should have planned it differently, especially if you're doing really long projects or years or longer. If you make the assumptions that you know where you're going at the beginning, you can end up in a really bad spot. So that's the purpose of this cycle. So I'm also a geek, proud of it. I love gadgets and technology. Sean and I we're just totally geeking out about our new phone. So we have the same Nexus 6, and we're really excited. It's a giant phone. It's kind of fun. And yeah, if any of you need some advice on buying a car or a phone, just come see me. I'll help you out. I know a lot. But most importantly, I'm a dad, and I've been blessed with these two really, really wonderful girls. And now having a 6-year-old who is about to finish up kindergarten, I am now able to look at the education system as an adult and look at it from my high podium of wisdom. And looking down into the system and asking some really serious questions that I never had to ask before. So I've had a year to kind of mull this over. With that adult perspective, I think it's kind of startling that we spend 12 to 16 to more than 16 years in an education track, right? I mean, that's longer than most people have jobs these days. That's longer than most of us do anything these days, 12 to 16 years, right? It's, what does it say, like 7,000 hours or 7 years, something can become a master at it? Like, we become a master at taking tests and getting grades and trying to do homework by the time we're in, what, 10th grade or something? I can't do math right now, sorry. So the thing that's been mulling around in my head is we are at every stage of education thinking about the next stage of education and being successful in that stage. So if you're in middle school, you're thinking about how can I be successful in high school, and then the pressure really amps up when you're in high school. How do I get into a good college, right? You're always kind of thinking, how do I do good now so I can get in a good position for the next stage? But very rarely are we thinking about 20, 30 years down the road and what's actually going to be life satisfaction, what's going to make us happy in the end, as opposed to what's going to get us into the best school. I think there's a potential solution here, and this is a question I have that I'm exploring and I don't have the answers for, but coming from the world of design, I keep thinking about, can this philosophy or methodology of lean be applied to basically life design? Can it be something that we can iterate on, explore more at a younger age where we have low risk? We can make mistakes about things that we might want to do in the future, and have more accessibility to possible career paths that we would have never known until we started a job and paid for college, which is awesome when you don't know what you want to do. I really like the idea of apprenticeships, and I've been reading more and more about how there's kind of a push to start doing more internships and apprenticeships that are actually geared towards really getting day-to-day work experience before you go off and pick that career for your life. And I've been reading a ton about the German system, and they're really fascinating. So if you haven't looked that up, just look up like German apprenticeship systems. They're really, really neat. I was going to talk about it for a long time, but Sean said I only have 30 minutes. So I took it all out of my presentation. All right, so I was at South by. It's my first year at South by. It's my first year in Austin. And South by was a really cool experience. I got to see a panelist talk, a panel talk, and one of the gentlemen was the head of a college. I won't name which one, but I don't think this is an exclusive perspective. He had a really interesting quote that stuck with me. Basically, it's, the customers of my school are not the students. They're the employers that hire the students. And it just, I sat there, I don't think I listened to the rest of the presentation. I was just mulling that over. I tried to ask a question about it. I went up afterwards and talked to him about it. It made me realize that the metric of success for that college and for what the students are doing is just that next step, just to get a job, right? Just to have that high placement percentage so they can put that on their website and get more people into the college. And it kind of depressed me because I've been, in contrast to my story about my daughter, I've been thinking about that long-term success. And I didn't realize that colleges are actively designing their courses for, they're working closely with employers to design what their employers want. And by employers, he was speaking about the Dells, right? The really big corporate employers that have the money and the resources to be working with colleges to design programs. So, speaking of expectations, we in America, and probably in a lot of places, have a lot of expectations about what you're supposed to do in life. As you're growing up, we tell our kids, after this grade, you go to this grade, and then after this grade, you go to high school, and after this grade, you need to do certain things to progress. And we push them really hard to be successful in those micro environments. So yeah, we want to get good grades, so we can go to college, get a good job, right? Makes sense. Find a mate, maybe mate. Find a house, which is great. I just bought a house here, I'm really excited about that. And have some kids, so I'm kind of following right along here. And repeat. And this is the part I got stuck on. I'm like, oh, I'm just doing this again. I'm just doing this to my kids. Like, I didn't fit in the education system. Why would they fit in the education system? I wasn't happy about my track. I always felt like I was not quite getting enough out of it. And I didn't have a bad school. It wasn't a horrible experience. It was just, it kind of let me down all the way through college. I always thought, when am I going to get to do the cool stuff? And then I graduated and it was over, and oh, now I get to do the cool stuff and bumble through the first couple of years of employment, not having any idea what I was doing. And I learned more in those first few months in employment than I did in most of my years in college. So I'm sure most of you have maybe a lot more knowledge about this than I do, but the reading I was trying to do is to understand what these different generational groups are thinking about what they're going to do once they graduate, what they're going to do in college, how they're going to pick their majors. And the interesting thing is millennials don't trust employers, right? They don't believe that employers are out for their greater good. They believe that employers are out for the structure, the employment, the place of employment, right? They want to make sure it stays in business. And a lot of people that are in this generation saw their parents get laid off. And maybe I feel this, and I'm not quite that young, but I got laid off twice. Actually, Gateway closed on me, so that was my first layoff. That was fun. Got to close the store. And then my next job, I got laid off. It was kind of crazy. But they don't expect to stay in their jobs for more than 3 years. And I think that's a huge shift, and we're already seeing that. And to get rate to be successful, I came from the advertising agency world. And in that space, you can kind of, in the beginning, you can be a junior or something, and then kind of a regular something, but to get to be senior and then go up the tree, you're really just gonna sit in your 3% raise, you're just gonna stagnate. So you've got to jump ship, and it's the culture in the agency world, and I think that culture might be spreading to other industries as well. To move up and to progress, you've got to be aggressive, you've got to leave your job, go somewhere else, take risks, and all that costs a lot of money, and it's a lot of pain for everybody. But they don't expect to be in jobs for more than 3 years, which is, I think, pretty interesting. It changes the landscape a little bit. Let me see if I forgot to say something. No, oh good, okay. So we're gonna run an experiment. Are you guys done eating? I don't want to interrupt what you're eating. Okay, so everyone, this is gonna be fun. Everyone stand up, and we're gonna do a fun little thing. If you know someone in the room, don't talk to them. Go to somebody else. So get in groups, find 3 new friends, people you don't know. Introduce yourself, say hello. So get in groups of 4 if you can. And guys, feel free to move closer to me too. Move this way. Somebody in the group, take your phone and get a timer going on your phone. I need a timekeeper. Want a timer? You need a timer in the group? We need a timer. Yes, do some right. Yeah, you can only max of 4, we're going to run out of time. Does everyone have a group? Alright, you guys, raise your hands if you have a group. Everybody? Hands up? Alright, cool. Alright, so here's what we're going to do. You've got 2 minutes, 2 minutes each to tell your story from your education to your career, and you have to make it really short, right? So it's not the whole story, just kind of, you know, what you wanted to do. So here's some primers. You don't have to answer all of these. What did you think you were going to do in high school when you got into college and got out of college? What are you going to do when you grow up? What did you pick as a major? Or did you pick a major, or was that your path? Did you switch that a lot? What was your first job, and did that first job affect your career? Like if you ended up in an industry for your profession, are you still in that industry, or did you bail once you figured out what it was all about? And what would you do differently? That last one might take longer than 2 minutes, but feel free to, yeah, what's up?
Just all was 2 minutes, or 2 minutes each?
2 minutes each. Yeah, so we have about 10 minutes, but each of you do it in 2 minutes, and we'll be good on time if you can. So try to, y'all introduce. So it's 7:21, so 7:29. We'll do 7:30. All right, go. We have 3 minutes, everybody, 3 minutes.
Most of those hours, right?
Engineer, go west. Yeah, not so I got to Austin because my wife got such a big job. I tried to get she's the sustainability director. Other engineers probably going to do something like that. So technology.
You guys almost done? Yeah? Give you 30 seconds.
Original meaning of that word.
All right, guys, go and find your seats. Back in your seats, let's go. Go, go, go. Come on, hold on. That's not coming through. All right, guys. Take your seats. Take your seats. Let's go. Seats. Hold on. I'm channeling the government. Slowly but surely. Do the clapping thing? Reminds do. What do teachers do? Come on, guys. Tell me what teachers do. What's the strategy here? It's not coming through. Out of time. Out of time. Grab some more food. Get your cards. All right, so you guys have unwittingly been part, I'm screwing that up. You guys have been part of a lean startup or a lean experiment. So I need all of your feedback on how this worked. I've never done like an 80-person group experiment before, so this is kind of fun. Was that worth 10 minutes of this? Raise your hand if it was okay. Was it worth it? Would you guys be okay if we did something like that again? Yeah, maybe? Raise your hand if it sucked. If it was terrible. I'm totally cool with that. I want to know if it doesn't work. Sucked? Terrible? I saw business cards being passed, so that's a good sign. All right, so let's talk about results from this. So a couple quick questions. Who in the room ended up in the career they thought they would end up in when they were in high school or early college? Yeah, a couple, 4, 5, 6, college? Do you guys pick like a major and you're still doing that? Yeah, it doesn't count if you're still in college. Yeah, good. Okay, cool, awesome. And then how many of you switched majors in college? Yeah? Cool, that's interesting. Because I went to community college because I had no idea, and I wasn't smart enough, I think I just stumbled into it. I was really eager to go to college and spend all that money. I had no concept of what, tens and tens of thousands of dollars a year really meant. I was like, oh, people pay for it, you do it all the time, I'm gonna do it. But I ended up going to community college because I didn't know what I wanted to major in. But I really wanted some feedback. Did anybody have learn anything really interesting about their people they met? Any takeaways, insights? Shaking heads, yes?
Just people following their passions, regardless of what their major or kind of formal education happens.
Interesting. Following passions regardless of the major or formal education. Sean?
It was interesting to hear that other people had a lot of the same experiences that I did, like figuring out what you want to do and learning from mistakes, and like I took this job and didn't like it and did that. It's just interesting to hear that other folks
that a lot of people took a job, didn't like it, and then moved on to a different kind of path or career. Yeah?
I think a lot of people want to, regardless of the job opportunity, they want to contribute to the initial passion or major they started off as 18-year-old in college.
Sure.
They do want to go back and do work or contribute to that.
They want to go back and learn more about it or work in that field?
Contribute to that field.
Okay.
Whatever they learn. I think there's something that you like as a child. I mean, as a child, transition to college. So.
Gotcha. At what age these days, from an educator to anybody that's in educating within high school, what age do people have to pick a major now to like declare to go to college? Is it any?
They want you to do it in 9th grade, but it doesn't always happen.
Well, that's actually long. So, right, so 9th grade, you have to choose a pathway.
9th grade, you have to choose a
Right,
pathway.
and 8th grade.
8th grade? How old are you at 8th grade? I mean, how old is
14.
Coming out of
14,
grade
yeah.
to go into 9th grade.
I'm sure that your 14-year-old self knows what you want.
Middle school or
That's crazy. All right, that's incredible. Any other?
The idea can also be looked at as figuring out what you don't want to do.
Figuring out what you don't want to do. Yes, yes. Trying things and figuring out what you don't want to do. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. I like that perspective. All right. Any other interesting insights before we move on? Yeah.
It's interesting how, in your case, you saw a need of a student that was underserviced and a student that was suffering by a system that is not working, and you developed your own company. And eventually you started a company to serve them.
So you kind of elevated from your one career path, you saw an opportunity, and you turned it into a company, right?
You see a problem in the career path, and you turn it.
See a problem in the career path, yeah. And that's actually what makes the best entrepreneurs, right? It's people that have worked in an industry, see the problems, and then create innovation within that industry. All right, cool, that was fun. So this leads to my exploration of helping people find their path in life. I feel like this is my new calling. I love design, I love creating technological solutions, and I think I can weave these two together, but I'm really, really excited about going down this new path. And unfortunately, my co-founder of my new company isn't here tonight. I was gonna have him talk about a few things, but so we started a new company here in Austin called Austin Sparkly, and its goal in life is to find that intersection of what you love, what you're good at, and what pays well. Because I think this was the formula I was missing. And this is something that I wish I was told to think about at a really early age and reinforced and explore all three of those. Because there is an overlap. And I remember I had a fight with an ex-girlfriend, so I was getting personal. I had a fight with an ex-girlfriend once because she was very sad in her job. She was an accountant. She didn't know what she wanted to do for college, and she ended up taking accounting just to go through the program. She ended up as an accountant. She hated it every day, hated it. And she's like, it's okay, I'm not gonna change. I'm just gonna suffer through my everyday so I can get home from work after an hour commute and then have fun. And I'm like, I don't wanna live life like that. Like I don't wanna have that I hate Mondays feeling. And I wanna be excited about Mondays so I get to build something that I'm eager to work on. And I think everyone has that somewhere, right? Everyone wants that. I don't know, maybe they don't. So Sparkly is a 2-week summer program for teens. We're launching it this summer. And we're really focusing on teaching those core principles or getting those three, that lovely Venn diagram, exploring that through programming, design, and I mean product design and also visual design. and business development. So the business skills that you need to understand what it means to solve a problem, create a product, and know how to fit in the marketplace, not just build something because it's fun. Because if you go into any of these career paths, someone's paying you to do it, whether it's a customer, client, boss, someone. And they want you to deliver results. And you gotta understand that I can't just make what I want because I wanna make it. I gotta make what I want and try to find a place that somebody's gonna pay me to make what I want and find that balance. So that's what we're trying to teach in our new program. I could talk about this a lot, so I'm gonna love to talk more afterwards if anyone has any more interest in it. Got lovely brochures and everything. But we're wrapping up here pretty close. So I'm hoping that what you guys take out of this is the encouragement to help others find their path. Start asking people those questions, think about it yourself. It sounds like a lot of people have already gone through that exploration through trial and error. But if you know students or you work with students, start asking them those questions. And for me, I'm still new at this. We have a great educator as part of our team, got a great trainer on our team, but I really truly believe in the community. The community's helped me grow in the startup world. So I'd love to get to know some of you better if you're interested in talking more. That's how I met Sean. We spent a lot of time at Cherrywood Cafe. So I'd love to grab a coffee sometime and talk more, especially if you're in the high school age range and you know a lot of high schoolers. I'd love to talk to you and better understand what their needs are, because we're taking the lean approach. We're not trying to make big assumptions about what they need. We're trying to talk to more of them. So with that, I'd like to thank EdTech Austin, Capital Factory, and of course, Sean Duffy for being such a cool guy. Thanks. Any questions? Seems to get one going. I know you want to talk. You guys want to ask about Sparkly. It's really exciting.
Just one really simple question. Yeah. Technology is hitting education like a whirlwind. Is this turbulence going to get worse?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of. I haven't seen the killer app in a lot of spaces. So wearable. So something else about Sparkly is we're developing on a Pebble platform is how we're limiting the scope. But to that point, there aren't a lot of killer apps for things like the convergence of the software, the hardware, and what it can do in education isn't quite there. It's it feels like pre-iPhone days with how does all the stuff work together. So yeah, I think there's going to be a lot more innovation. I love being part of this group. It really feels like it's kind of on the edge and seeing a lot of cool stuff. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I just want to say that I think this whole concept is a great idea because, having worked in education, you spend most of your time in the classroom, at school all day. When you have time off, you're doing your lesson plans, you're reading papers, and sometimes you can get really isolated. And so this is really critical to collaborate, come up with new ideas, because when you get isolated, then you tend to do what you already know.
Yeah.
And
fall back on habits.
And technology's really been great too, because now even people, if they're not even necessarily looking for technology per se, I mean, it's just opening up so much more opportunities for creativity.
Yeah, definitely. And then there's so much easy collaboration that can happen now, and so many great tools that are being developed for business, which it's really nice to see, like Google doing all their stuff with education and giving tools away. And I've been using those tools for so many years to get business done. I've got a completely remote team, but now you can take that and educate people, and you can do overseas education. You can do remote. It's not limited to getting a bunch of people in a room. You can do all kinds of different types of education. I think the real disruption in higher education and colleges isn't going to be some sort of bill that forces colleges to charge less. It's going to be all the disruption coming from companies that start in places like this that really, really disrupt and say, you know what, your pricing model is just ridiculous. It doesn't work for most people. We don't need $100,000 or $200,000 worth of debt for a lot of the career paths that people are taking through there. This is my strongly held belief. I think college is great in many, many ways, but in a lot of ways it kind of tricks people into the system, spend a lot of money, and they don't get the outcomes, the results they need from it.
It's very much become about making money.
It's about making money.
More so than traditional.
Yeah, but now, you don't need those institutions to teach people. So I don't think they need to go away. I just think that's where the pressure is going to come from. The competition is going to come from this groundswell of innovation.
So in your Venn diagram, you had you had what you love, what you're good at, what pays well.
Yep.
So what I think when I talk to a lot of people, and statistically most people, what you're good at, you can learn those skills. If you want to learn Python, you can.
Sure.
You'll be good at it. What pays well? Yes, that pays well. What do you love? Like a lot of people say, I love teaching children, volunteering, environmental sustainability.
Sure.
I don't think any of that pays well.
So take it. So I'm gonna use an example that I.
How do you go from the blue and pink and make it?
What you're good at.
What pays well and what you love.
What pays well and what you love. So, everyone has hobbies and everyone has things they just like doing, right? And there's probably people that have found ways to make money doing almost anything, whether it's skydiving and you open a skydiving school, right? There's things that you can take your passions and turn into a business and make money doing it, make it a living. If you take something like what you love, the thing with software developers and the misconception with them is that, and I'm not one, I just work very closely with them, is software developers are seen as people that just like working in code and kind of sitting at their desk and not talking to people, right? There's kind of a stigma there. The thing with software developers is they're just another type of engineer. They're like solving problems, right? They're like knowing what the problems are. And people there's a lot of people that gravitate to doing software development because it's easily accessible. You can teach it to yourself. But it doesn't mean because you learn software development, you have to be stuck in software development. Take one of my business partners. He's trying to get himself out of software development. He can make a really good living doing software development, but he wants to become more of an architect and a strategist, but leveraging those skills. So he's moving, he's getting paid really well, and he's really, really good at it, but he doesn't really love it. So he's trying to take his skill set and move it into a different subset of skills and learn a little bit more about being more client-facing and being in front of people, so he can get closer to this middle point. It's more like a spectrum. I don't think of it black and white. And I'm sure there's many cases that are similar to that, but everyone at some point grows out of the job that they're doing and they want to do something different. So how do you go from that phase to the next one and find kind of getting as close to that middle point as possible? How does that address your thought? Let's talk about it.
All right, last question.
Last question, okay.
So Nick, thank you for your presentation. What's your call to action? What, at the end of your event in the summer, what would you want to look back and see happen? And yes, and how can we help?
Oh, well, thank you. Call to action for Spark League would be call to action for you guys or the students?
For us.
For us.
And what's your measure of success for that?
That's a really good question. I'm working on the measure of success. It's hard to measure life satisfaction 20 years out, but specific ask would really just, I feel like I don't know what I don't know, and on some level I'm new enough to it that I feel like there's a cloud of unknowns. And I would really love for people to help me poke holes in this, like find out what's wrong before, it's a paid program, it's a for-profit program. We want to make enough money to sustain our business and help it grow. So I don't want to have people go through it, like it's not for the money, but if people are paying money for it, I want to make sure it's not going to be a lame program and they're just going to be kind of bored about it. So the call to action there would be, if you guys want to talk more about it and be really critical, I love strong criticism. I love having my ideas have holes poked in them because that only makes them better. I don't like going in naive and thinking I've got great ideas. If it's a stupid idea, we don't have to do it. If we can make it better somehow, that'd be great. So we've got a lot of detail on the site, and we're building the curriculum right now. So anybody that's great at building curriculums, anybody? We have a great person too that's helping us out on that right now. But any input that makes this a great program, any way you want to be involved would be awesome.
All right, cool. And if you have other questions, by the way, Nick will be around later on. All right, so another round of applause. Thank you so much. All right, so I see a lot of people standing in the back. There are a bunch of seats up front and kind of scattered throughout. So if you want to grab seats, Val is going to be our next presenter. Now would be a good time if you need to hit the restroom. They're right around the corner. Windows on the right. Although, I guess that depends on how quickly the office goes.
No, use the restroom. Everybody
Okay.
go.
Why don't we take a quick 5-minute break and we'll be back after that. I have one too, by the way.
I think there's batteries.
Same exact model.
You know what? If you have one, let's switch it. Cause mine.
Oh, I can just give you the batteries.
Hey!
I've missed most of it, but the best.
Hey, you know what I need? I need like a service.
You need a hand warm service.
I'm just trying to It's crazy. We're like brothers. Pretty much, yeah.
All three of y'all are eaters. I was like, I better go too.
I'm also going to do that.
So, where you're going to have a problem is.
Hey, Brendan.
Oh gosh.
The problem is when you do this, you click on event.
Alright, we're going to go around.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. You know what? Since I used up all your time.
We're trying to fill her or the crowd? Both. Okay. Which side?
I gave him the mark. So I'm not responsible for it. I don't know. I think I gave them. They might be able to buy your uniforms.
Yeah, but this is what Frank
I still have that, by the way. It's pretty terrible. I moved it, so. Hey, we want to talk to you about other than coding,
Okay, guys, if you want to head back to your seats, we're going to get going here again. So head on back to your seats, and let's get ready to go.
yeah, it's interesting.
Wow. Are you ready? Do you want to wrangle the crowd?
Who wants to get wrangled? Guys, are you ready? Sean told me I had to wrangle you. So I'm going to try to do that with my voice because I didn't bring my lasso. Whatever you use for that. If you are standing in the back, you got to sit right here. We got to get cozy. I don't want this to be like a, it's like story time. Come on. You guys are all on wheels. I'm not buying it. Come closer. Do it. Nick Han, that's a good space. Alrighty. Come on, people in the back. Don't do me like that. So guys, I'm gonna be honest, my biggest challenge is gonna be, can I use the clicker? I understand that it only has 2 buttons, but are we ready? You guys in the back, you don't wanna sit like right in the front row super close? Nah, okay. Alrighty. Hello everybody. Does everybody get like movement and they're fine? You're ready to pay attention again?
Ready to play.
Ready to play. So my name is Val, hello. And what I do is I teach people to see play as a tool for productivity so that they can take that and live more fun lives and work more efficiently. And I get a lot of questions about that. The biggest question is, how did you get to do that? And it, by the way, is a thing that I'm super passionate about and that's exciting to me constantly. So teaching people to take more time out, to refresh themselves, to sort of replenish their energy reserves, and what things they can do to do that. So the big question I get is, how did you get to do that? And the official answer is that I've been doing it forever, right? Like it's something that comes naturally to me. And as, you know, as a former like chubby foreign nerdy kid, I had to develop, yes, can anyone relate? I heard like a little like mouth cracking, very good, very good. I had to develop something else, so I had to become fun. So I brought my fun game. And what happened from there is I had, you know, I was an RA and I had teammates and I had jobs and I actually had a brief stint as the token art teacher, of course. And what I had to bring to the table was a way to make things fun. So I've been doing it for ages, but it took all the way until like 29 to start to put a formal structure to this, even though it's something that had come naturally to me all of my life. So this is actually a fun little, I ripped this off someone on, what is it called, the Twitter. So apologies for not crediting, but we were doing a stretch break. So that sounds really cheesy, and this is sort of like a cheesy-ish photo, but I promise it wasn't that cheesy in person. And we had a wonderful time. So this is sort of an example of things that I do. I mobilize people to get up and do things that they don't think they want to do, but that they actually do. So my big question to myself, and kind of something that we just all looked at, is why on earth did it take me so long, like 29 years, to figure out what I wanted to do when the answer was right there in front of me the whole time? And the funny thing about it is that much of what I know now about what fulfills me professionally and personally, I already knew when I was 15. So let's take a little time travel trip. Boom. Gosh, these are awful. But it is what it is. I had to call my mom and I said, Mom, can you find any photos of me doing the thing that I'm asking you to find me photos doing? And you can tell this is from high school because that is a terrible clamshell phone from way back in the day. But I was a teenager and I wanted to have some spending money so I could spend money on stupid stuff that you don't need, that you later get rid of. And I knew that I had a lot of academic commitments and social commitments and sports and all this stuff, and I knew that teenage jobs didn't really make you a lot of money and that they were time intensive. So I just said, nah, I'll just make my own job. And so I took something I liked, which was gardening, and I started effectively a gardening business. But I had no idea. I literally had no idea that I'd started a business. I just had like a means to an end. Like I wanted some money, I did a thing, people paid me the money. Started with one client, and then it grew through word of mouth, and it was a business, and I got my cash to buy like my useless teenage things. And it was beautiful in its simplicity. And the thing that's shocking to me now is that I just couldn't see that I had built something. I just thought it was just something, you know, I just did something and then I was on to the next thing because I was running on that treadmill of like high school life. Like, how am I gonna ace that math test? Like, what school am I gonna get into? All that stuff. And I knew that I had also, you know, regular teenager jobs where I was working for someone else, but I knew I liked to work for myself. I just had no idea why. And if I had taken a closer peek, this is what I might have discovered. So at 15, and at the grand old age of 30, where we stand today, my priorities are exactly the same. The things that make me happy as a 15-year-old or made me happy, make me happy today. So making my own schedule, being my own boss, and working with a lot of autonomy, working with good, smart people, that's important, creating order from chaos, it's a thing I still love to do, systems, we were just talking about that, yes. And being outside as much as possible. But the thing that kept me from these insights was that I didn't have a framework in which to sort of pull this information out. Like this was just something that was happening and I didn't know why. But I didn't even, I wasn't even aware. If someone had asked me, like, what do you like to do and what do you like about this, then it might have come out. But that never happened. And if it had, it could have been a framework for my 20s. And I could have saved myself some of those similar types of strife that I heard some of you guys talk about. But instead, my 20s looked like that. And maybe you guys can relate. So 25%, this is very scientific, obviously. I went back through literally everything that happened. Not exactly. Yes, giggles, you can laugh, it's okay to do that. So 25% was awesome. Like toward the latter part of the decade, I started another business and I sort of started to find my way. But that big like 68% plus the 7%, which is kind of part of that 68 anyway, because it's the same thing, but sort of like a small, specific segment of eating and drinking away my feelings of the 68% part. It was just miserable. I was just like running around on somebody else's track, and I literally have no idea why. But I have some theories. And I'm doing it old school style because I can't remember anything. I don't know if anyone else has this problem. So I'm doing the notes. So here's fundamentally what I was not able to do as a teenager. Even though I knew already the basic things that I needed for like a basic level of fulfillment, here's what I could not do. I couldn't step out of the framework that I was working in, so high school, and assess my actual interests and aptitudes. Like I knew, oh yeah, I'm better at English than I am at math, but I didn't understand what the broader implications of that were. I never stopped to dissect, like, why am I bad at math? What about it? I wasn't even bad at math, but whatever. What about it doesn't appeal to me? Like, why am I not super gung-ho about it? And I literally had no idea, and this is something that I heard echoed a few minutes ago. I had no idea what job options were out there. I just had no clue at all. I thought you like went to be a librarian, or like maybe you were a teacher, or maybe you like opened a landscaping business. Like I just didn't know. And that it was, a product of where I grew up and what my folks did and what I'd been exposed to, but there was a lot more that I could have taken in. And then going back to the gardening, acknowledging what I'd already done. So realizing that I'd started a business and that maybe I would like to do that in the future. But the thing was, I didn't have any official framework to explore these questions. And so what I want to ask of you guys, because you're getting a little restless, perhaps, even though we've only been at it for like 5 minutes, is does such a framework to discuss these questions exist where you work, or has it? Anybody? Who works? Oh, this guy in the back.
Yeah.
Can you yell to us about it?
We basically had like monthly one-on-one with every employee, and now we have developed like an official performance review process that's all based on like having thoughtful goals and things that they like to, and also listing things that they do. So them just acknowledging a list of things that they do day to day, but also just like anything extra that that they spend time doing, even if it's not part of their role. So that's helped us kind of get shape kind of like what where they're headed and what they enjoy, what they're good at, what they enjoy doing.
So, but I take it you guys are all adults, like not in high school.
That's right.
So my question is really, but I think it's wonderful. My question is, does anything like this exist inside of a high school curriculum? Shoot.
I work at a small private school called Skybridge Academy, and we pretty much do the same three things that you're talking about, but we're private and we don't have to abide by state testing and so on, so there's a lot more room to be able to do these things.
So did everybody hear that? Skybridge, is that right?
Yes.
Academy, private school in town, and they do these three things, but they're not beholden to the testing requirements the same way the public schools are. Shoot.
I mean, I worked at a typical public school and with middle schoolers, gave them Myers-Briggs testing, did one-on-ones with them and stuff just because I didn't really care what anybody thought about me doing it. So.
Here it is. So we've got Myers-Briggs testing with middle schoolers, which is like, you know, what is that here? Is that like 14, 15?
So I guess, yeah, like 12 through 15.
12 through 15, that's great. Sean Duffy?
I'll give you the other side of it. I taught at a public school in Colorado, and they had a portal called College in Colorado where students were going through and filling out all these things. But I would say that even though we provided that opportunity for them, my assumption was that not a lot of those students took it very seriously. So they had the opportunity, but I don't really know that it was as effective as it could have been.
So building on that, so there's a company actually that's in our incubator here in Austin called Map My Grad, and they built a tool that really is trying to do this in the span of about 30 minutes to help kids decide kind of path, you know, understand the system, decide pathways, and do this thing that we were talking about earlier, where they have to sort of decide this major. And it's sort of set up as a you know, BuzzFeed sort of interest quiz. You know, if you were on a, you know, deserted island, or what you, if you could be on a TV show, those types of questions that will lead you to sort of making suggestions. So it's just trying to take a different fun approach to sort of help kids to start sort of putting a framework around this. So we just started doing a couple of pilots in a couple of school districts. So we'll see how it sort of pans out. But the big goal is to be able to sort of make it available for free to any student anywhere is the sort of larger goal. So
that's amazing. Yeah. Did everybody hear all of that?
Map My Grad. So you can check it out. And if you're in a school and you're interested, Scott at edtechaction.com, and you can call me and we'll set up a pilot in your school. Cool.
Wonderful. So that's great to hear. That's pretty much what I wanted to hear. So I am relieved. But for me, I mean, the point of me even bringing this up is to sort of tackle a larger question. What is the point of educating ourselves? Which is what that fancy slide is about. Why educate? And so it's a balance between, I like the giggles. You guys, this is like, we can laugh, it's fine. You can smile, you can relax your face. Guy with mustache, excellent, thank you, yes. Yeah, the point is, why do we do this? Are we just creating productive members of society that can operate within the bounds of that? Or are we trying to create a framework by means of which people can find what it is that drives them personally and move themselves towards an ultimately fulfilling life? Or is it some combination of both of those? And like, what's the push and pull? And do we need to carve out specific space for students to tackle those three questions, or questions similar to them, so that they can, instead of sort of like following blindly along and assessing themselves, not based on traditional methods like test scores and grades and the expectations of their parents and peers, but they can sort of go outside of that and have a new form of assessment that's true to what they want to do and what they're interested in. And I don't know. I mean, my sense is yes, I feel like my path could have been a lot shorter. And I feel like the conversations we had earlier echo some of that. But that's up to you to decide, you guys. And if you want to talk about it more, that's how you can find me. Thanks very much. Oh yeah, Q&A, I forgot. It's like, I'm so frightened of the basic technological implements like the clicker and the microphone.
You did a very good job, by the way.
It's very stressful. Literally, thank you. My clicking, oh, thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Literally about anything. Like my shoe size?
I was wondering, can you maybe say a little bit more about like some of the gigs that you've done where you've brought on and how that works? And
Yes. So I bring the fun all the time, but, or I try. But professionally speaking, I do one-on-one, like coaching style stuff, but I prefer group work. So team building, where I'm going to put you in situations where you may be doing things that you never thought that you would do, and then you have unexpected outcomes. I also take people for walks to introduce novelty and exercise into their lives. And I speak because it's fun. Does that do it? Sean Duffy, you've asked too many questions.
So you said these are all for getting adults to start playing more?
Yes.
Have you thought of the idea of building adult playgrounds?
Yes. So, okay, so the question is, have I thought of the idea of building adult playgrounds? As a small-sized adult myself, I just play on the children's playgrounds. But I recognize that other people have other needs. And there's a huge movement now in terms of like the livability index of cities, like to make sure there's enough play space for kids, but adults are like completely left out of the equation. And I would love nothing more. If anyone has like a very, very deep pocket full of extreme amounts of money, I would love to build an adult playground.
Well, there was a place, I don't know if you guys saw it, it was called Hot Lava.
Hot Lava.
Yeah, it was up on Lamar, like North Lamar, but I think they unfortunately closed. And it was,
but what was it? It sounds like
exactly what it sounds like. It's like the floor is hot lava, and so
exactly what it sounds like. The floor is hot lava.
It's the best game ever.
Okay, I'm going to start a petition later tonight to bring hot lava back, and Sean Duffy will share the link. Follow-up question. Sean Duffy, we need more. What was hot lava? Help the sister out.
It was on like North Lamar. It was a parkour gym, but it was modeled on the idea of like play and yeah, and maybe it was just parkour. Sorry guys, hot lava was just parkour. Sorry.
But it'd be really cool as an adult playground. We should all
getting out of here.
The ground is
Wait, Austin Rock Gym, another cool place. Wait, tell us about that.
So, like, recently I decided that I should start risking my life more often, and so I ordered, like, decked out top roping soloing gear, and then decided to start, like, got a membership at Austin Rock Gym and started, climbing around and realizing how completely incompetent I am as a climber. Like, wow, these people are making me look just absolutely foolish. But it's really fun, you can go climb around and fall on a padded floor that's not lava.
And there are harnesses, like you won't like fall.
No, there are. I mean, at the South Gym there are, but like you don't go that high, and it's basically a crash pad floor. So yeah, you fall and you hit the floor, and hope that you don't fall on your head.
Great. I just want to throw in that you don't actually have to have any official infrastructure to play. Like you can go for a walk, or you can like throw something at somebody. You can climb a tree, provided you have health insurance. Just kidding, horrible joke.
I work out at VUCA and they just installed seesaws and swings for all of the adults.
No, you don't need it. Okay, you're cool. Seesaws and
But
swings.
people now have meetings on the seesaw.
Which I think is terrific. Yeah, walking meetings, swinging meetings, seesawing meetings.
Capital Factory.
Yes, there's a kinesthetic element that generates a lot of different brain activity. And then I'm just going to slip this in here too, even though I'm no longer supposed to be talking. Sorry, Sean Duffy. Having fun does not detract from the seriousness of the work that you do. Like I feel like we're moving towards that slowly, like a giant barge very slowly, but we're not quite there yet. Like there's still the assumption that the more you work hour-wise, the more you're getting done. But really, you can just work a lot more efficiently if you play around more. And if you do good work when you're working, and if you get really good at tooling around when you're not. And it doesn't diminish your seriousness as a person. In fact, I have personally more respect for you if you do that rather than less. Anything else, you guys? No? All right. Thank you, guys.
And so on that note, a couple of things. We're going to skip the break and run right into our pen pal presentation. But interestingly, tonight is actually Val's 30th birthday. So happy birthday, Val. We do have cake in the back in recognition of her birthday. So if you guys are fans of cake, we'll be enjoying that later. And one last thing, if you love the idea of fun and you want an opportunity for fun, we are planning on going to Emos for karaoke after tonight's meetup. Egos. Yeah, why did I keep calling it Egos? There's another place called Egos. So yeah, if you guys want to do that, I've been wanting to do it for a while after an EdTech Meetup. We are going to need to clear out of here at 9, so just so you know, that's where we're going. Egos. All right, and again, keeping with that theme of fun in education, we have another awesome group to share with us their upcoming journey and how they incorporate fun into their really cool startup. So without further ado, Joe and Mark.
Well, actually, Joe's going to pull up the website.
You need a website?
We will not be having any fun.
We can go on wacky videos. They are the best.
They're the best.
So you just type PowerPoint.
I want to do it since
We need a.
Come on over, man. We'll be.
I spelled schools wrong.
Close enough. And shows. You don't have to figure it out. You want to do that one? First, I guess.
Cool. All right, yeah. I'm the founder of PenPal Schools. This is Mark, our head of curriculum at PenPal Schools. We've got a couple of other guys back here. Miguel, our CTO, is here. Mike's right here, head of teacher support and kind of utility man. And then Mung and Boris are here as well. Hannah's helped us out, so we're really had a lot of help from the Austin community.
The mic guy popped off.
Oh.
Hold it down on the bottom. I'll turn it back.
On?
Yeah.
Okay, sweet. All right, well, nothing I said so far was important anyway. So what is PenPal Schools? Who here had a pen pal growing up? Great, and who here at least knows what a pen pal is? All right, well, that's one of the best parts about what we do is just by hearing our name, you already know about half the story. The other half of what we do is we've modernized pen pals with apps that make pen paling fun and easy and slick, and that's what my man Miguel is all about. And the second half is that we've integrated curriculum so that you're not just talking about whatever comes to mind and whatever you happen to write to your pen pal about, but it's aligned to standards, be those Common Core or TEKS. You're learning about art and life and history. You're learning about poverty with pen pals in India. You're learning about technology with pen pals in Africa or China. And what we've now got is a community of over 60,000 students in more than 65 countries connecting to learn with each other and share. And it's pretty awesome, the kind of connections we're seeing happening every day. But we're not really here to talk about pen pal schools. We're here to listen because we are headed to Washington, D.C. We've got some meetings there with the Department of State, the Department of Education, and actually recently was invited to the White House to meet with President Obama. And all of this is because we are sharing with them the insights and opinions and ideas of teachers all across the country and what they care about in education. So we're here today on our first stop, and this is our home base here in Austin. We work right over there in the Capitol Factory, but we'll be going to Houston, and well, we got a whole list here. Our drive to DC. We'll be going to, where are we headed? We're headed out next Thursday, the 30th, to go to Houston, then on down to New Orleans, Tallahassee, a couple flex days in there, but we'll be making our way to Atlanta, North Carolina, and then finally to DC, and then fly up to New York. And we're doing this, and we're holding town hall meetings everywhere that we go. And we're going to be listening to teachers and getting their opinions on the issues that matter to them most. And we've got our own classes. We work with schools all across the Southeast, as you can see here, and all over the world. But we're going to be talking to them about issues that, gathering their insights, their feedback, and bringing those ideas to those meetings in Washington, D.C. And so we're going to get into some of the topics here today to get your insights on those, your feelings, your beliefs, what you believe needs to change in the classroom, and also what people are doing right. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Mark, who's going to guide us through an exercise to learn from y'all and get some of your ideas down for those meetings.
Hey everybody, my name is Mark Danforth, and I am the head of curriculum for Pen Pal Schools. I am also an education entrepreneur, and I'm the proud co-founder of a little company called Book Around, and we promote literacy in elementary schools and help break down the word gap that students in low-income and non-native English-speaking households come to school with. So a couple of my teammates are here as well. But better than all of those titles, I am a classroom teacher. I was a elementary school teacher for a number of years, and I consider it to be an environment in which not a lot of learning is happening if there's not a lot of noise in said environment. So I'm glad I saw a lot of people on technology. We're going to be interacting with you all via Kahoot, which is a super exciting platform that actually just came to Austin. Down here at getkahoot.com. And we're also going to be asking you folks to tweet with us at hashtag Drive to DC. We are very much interested in hearing what you all have to say. Joe and I are very proud parts of startups, but we ultimately are more interested in changing the way education works in the United States and internationally. So we're going to get folks started by learning a little bit about yourselves through a platform called Kahoot. And is anyone here familiar with Kahoot by a raise of hands? Nice. Yeah, Kahoot is a super easy to use tool. It's so easy that kindergartners, my former kindergartners, were able to access this platform. So I'm very confident in you all here.
And Mark, just so you know, I don't think you know this, but Kahoot actually just recently moved to Austin. They're a capital factory company, so they came from Norway to join the International Accelerator here at Capital Factory. So welcome, Kahoot.
Yeah, so exciting news for Kahoot and just the e-learning community in general. So I'm going to ask everyone to pull out your mobile device if you have one and go to kahoot.it. And there are going to be some directions up here once we hit launch. So get ready on your phone, tablet, or laptop now.
KAHOOT.IT.
Directions are up here. You can join our game by typing in 22016. Once you enter your username, you're going to pop up here, and we'll be ready to get started once we see a fair number of you all joining the game.
Nick.
So we got Sean, we got Hannah, we got Kate, we got a number of players already joining our game. And this is just a great engagement tool if you are an educator. It really helps bring the learning to everybody, and it's really informative for any facilitator to learn a little bit about the population. So we got 26 players already about to enter our game. So you can tell it's going to be a super competitive game. All right, we're going to give about 1 more minute for our players to finish logging in. And please, no profanities or dirty names, because we can track you down.
Maybe can't speak too well.
All right, so we're going to get started. We have 3 questions in this rigorous quiz. The first question is, why are you interested in education? We want to know a little bit about who's in the room. Possibly you're an educator. Possibly you are involved in technology, you are a parent, or possibly you are a student. Some of us are lifelong students. Unfortunately, they only give you 4 options, so we'll have to tell them downstairs they need to add a 5th option. We got 10 seconds left. The map are all the schools that Pen Pal Schools connects through our virtual Pen Pal exchanges internationally. All right, nice. So we have a pretty cool breakdown of people here. We have a fair number of people interested in technology, a fair number of educators, some parents, as well as some students. Awesome. So we're going to facilitate some really cool conversations, and I think it's awesome when we have a diverse population to take part in those conversations. Our second question, do teachers' opinions influence education policy decision-making? Teachers are so important in the education process, but do their decisions actually play into the policies that our leaders make?
This isn't ideally, this is currently?
Currently, yes. In the current world we live in, 2015, April 21st.
22nd.
22nd.
Yeah. Val's birthday.
Val's birthday. Happy birthday, Val. All right, maybe a little bit, not at all. Right, those are definitely outweighing somewhat, and yes, definitely, which is pretty sad. And our last question. Which issues are most important for policymakers to address in education reform? Ed policy, community building in schools, ed technology, or global education, breaking down those barriers between folks and countries around the world. And you may notice these are the hashtags we have listed on chart paper, so pick your favorite.
What's community?
Community, building community. Do schools do enough to engage in the communities in which they serve? Nice, and that is beautiful and exactly what we were hoping for, to see a pretty even distribution of folks who are interested in talking about all of these very important topics in education. So, what we're going to do next is we're going to encourage everyone to take advantage of the wheels on the bottom of your chair and move them aside, and we're going to all stand up, and we would like folks to pick the hashtag that is most important to them, the issue that is very important in the way that we have education in the United States. And we're going to spend about 5 minutes talking with those people who have the same interest with us. And then we're going to come back and see what's going on. If you are on Twitter, please hashtag the issue that's most important to you. Hashtag drive to DC, and Penn Pal Schools will be happy to retweet you to our hundreds of followers. Thousands of followers. Millions of followers.
Hey, do we need to write our
Yes, please write your ideas around on the chart paper. Sean Duffy is coming around with markers. And ready, set, go. So guys, there's two things to be doing now. You're going to be tweeting with these hashtags and the hashtag drive to DC. And also for those that aren't on Twitter, go ahead and write up on the boards.
I think we need to say everyone start tweeting.
So perhaps
challenge right is they've built a policy around what they pledge, not what they actually do.
Kind of forgot that, like, having a balance a policy so like not have too much
Oh my god, I totally lost that. It's not mirrored, so I'll do this.
Oh, I got you. Yeah, I was hoping it was HDMI so I could as well.
So I switched it now. It'll just show if you want to set it.
Oh, so before it was extension. I'm Mark, by the way.
So now it should be
Okay, cool.
Sure, I got it.
Yeah. We are not seeing a lot of tweeting happening up here, so don't forget you can contribute via Twitter.
But I think that's a good distinction because there is
The whole world is very playground because they travel so much.
I did 5 minutes and it went up.
We got like 3 minutes.
I would just be really cautious about it. Because 9 o'clock is like an hour. I think it's great.
Yeah, I mean, that was off the chart. Dude, I hate
issues
All right, we're going to kindly ask your conversations to end, at least in the physical space. They don't have to end. If you are on Twitter, you can continue to have the conversation. And we're going to invite folks to return to a seat so that we can have a little bit of wrap-up conversation with the whole group before Sean's going to close us out with some announcements.
I did this earlier.
And we're going to get started in kind of 5. We're going to get started again here in about 5 seconds. And we're going to start calling out names if Joe Troyan continues talking. 4 seconds. 3 seconds. 2 seconds. 2.5. I would hate to bust out some of the elementary schools on you all, respectable people. So I think it's really inspiring to see just the degree in which people want to talk about these issues. They're obviously incredibly important to the state of education, not only in the US, but internationally. And I'm going to turn it over to Joe to kind of bring us back and help us wrap it up. I saw a few folks were tweeting at us, and we appreciate you, and we're looking forward to continuing the conversation online into the night. So what we'd like to have is, first of all, as Mark keeps saying, we'd love for this conversation to continue on Twitter. So please go ahead, hashtag Drive to DC and hashtag the various topics, global ed, community, EdTech, and ed policy. We'd also like to hear from some of you, perhaps someone that could be a spokesman for your group and what you talked about, just some of the salient points, some of the things that really stuck with you or stuck with you as a group in terms of when we get to Washington, when we have our meeting with the Department of Education or with the President or in the Department of State, if we're talking about global ed, what are the things that you feel like represent your discussion and you'd like us to bring up with those policymakers? So someone, let's start with ed policy. That seemed to be a pretty vibrant discussion. Someone from the ed policy group, please stand up and describe some of the key components of what you talked about. Who was in the ed policy group?
I was.
Excellent. All right. We got to hear it. Thank you, Ryan.
So we viewed ed policy as kind of the thing that's going to change all of the different hashtags around the room. We said that it would have probably the highest impact, which is why maybe more of us chose it, or a lot of us chose it. You know, it drives education technology, it drives the funding, it drives a lot of the initiatives around it, so we felt that it was important to put it as our number one. We just differentiated a little bit. We talked about, you know, how there is state policy, there's national policy, and how they interact. We talked about that just a little bit. How sometimes states can opt out of national policies, initiatives, sometimes states can't. We talked about how it's really important that, you know, you have to figure out what is the importance, like, what do we want to be the most important thing, and then try and assess the most important things. And that's why I drew this. And then in the middle of that, you have to have a balance. We talked about how, with No Child Left Behind, policies that have driven our testing, a lot of our, I guess, curriculum, a lot of our focus in education has gone to reading and math, reading and math, reading and math. We dropped off history, we dropped off science in some schools until, you know, later elementary, and that's a shame. We talked about how voices are important. I put I here because we were having fun, right? Yes. And we also talked about how there was a lot of talk about what standards are, but maybe a little bit less talk about curriculum and how maybe ed policy could shape curriculum more. So that's what we talked about.
Thank you, Ryan. That was awesome. For EdTech, unless someone objects, I can't imagine a better spokesman than Mr. EdTech Austin himself, Scott Lipton.
All right, so I don't think we took lots of notes, so I'm gonna have to. So chime in, folks that were in the group, please, because there's no notes up here. So I think maybe we sort of. I'm gonna put it into categories, and if I'm missing something, someone from the group tells me. So I think with EdTech, we talked about sort of barriers that are bureaucratic, political, policy-based barriers. What's that? And access barriers. We talked about people and knowledge and different knowledge bases and who the decision makers are, often being the people that understand the technology, don't necessarily understand the bottom line outcomes, which is the student learning. And the people that know the student learning don't maybe know about the technology, and so there's a bit of a disconnect within the system. That it's very different from the commercial business space. Things like there only being one sales cycle a year, whereas if I'm in the commercial technology space, every day I wake up is a new sales cycle, right? So these sorts of barriers. And we talked about access to incentives. So I think there's some conversations that some people were saying about incentivizing different sorts of incentives for bringing technology to schools, whether it's working with charter schools and being able to grow from there, whether it's finding grant funding to get initiatives off the ground. That it's really hard to get started as a small ed tech company. And then one person was talking about also the, where the ideas are coming from and sort of that focus on student learning as being the starting point as opposed to the other way around. And I think that we in EdTech Austin had a great session once where Stephanie Serta was talking about solutions looking for problems rather than problems looking for solutions in the ed tech space. So it was always a really good way to put it. Research and development, and then also we talked a lot about efficacy. So how do you know there's so much stuff out there, what's out there to help people understand what the best technology is for finding a solution to what they're doing. But then ultimately EdTech has not really penetrated schools yet, it's just getting started. There's a ton of investment going on in the EdTech space right now, but comparatively, like last year was the biggest year ever. I think it was like a little over $2 billion. But like I think Uber made that last week, right? So it's a lot for EdTech, but it's not like in the grand scheme of things, that much. So people are just starting to get into that space, and so it's a hard space to get into. So all of these great EdTech companies, they're doing great work, but help them out.
Thank you, Scott. A couple great sound bites might make the final clip. It makes it to the White House, I think. Solutions looking for problems. I don't know. I could go all the way. How about community? Is there somebody from the community team here? Thank you. What's your name?
I'm just close by, and it was a great group actually for the short minutes we had. So a lot of things here. Let's start with administrators getting on board with the structures for community to happen. It's almost like as teachers, we are in the trenches of education with the kids, and sometimes when you close the classroom door, the policy goes out the door. You're concentrated about creating a community between you and your class, and sometimes administrators kind of get a little bit on the way. Facilitate conversations between teachers and the community, the business community, so that I guess we'll recommend that a lot of the times in schools, teachers, they have their connections that they think are great for students, but it takes a lot of effort for the teachers to make that happen for the students. So facilitating those conversations. Broaden focus beyond the local industry. Many schools just think about the employers that are near their area. Sometimes just there was the idea that schools need to also help kids think that like, hey, perhaps what you want to do is not locally, and how can we help students think globally as well. So in that sense, it's like not just a local community, but how can we make local and global at the same time? Get schools involved more with businesses in the community. Give more power, I don't know what that was, give more power to the community to come into the schools. Sometimes the schools are a little bit close to all the school stuff that is happening. There's so many startups here in Austin, and it's hard, sometimes the schools they're closed to all these great ideas. How do we get these great ideas into the schools themselves? Internships and opportunities for kids to spend time in universities and actually doing some hands-on work, and even giving for the most talented kids opportunities to be published even. We talked a little bit about that because often some kids, for example, the example was given in the medicine field, a lot of families, they have a lot of money to pay to buy the internship opportunities, but what happens when kids don't come from money, they don't have these opportunities? What can we do as educators in high school to actually help them to think about this? Mentorship was something that was told, and one of the interesting things was that we need to do a better job of teaching mentors how to be mentors. A lot of times people want to be mentors, but they have no idea how to start to do that, so that was an interesting thing that was brought up. Food, everything's better with food, so if we have food, somehow we're gonna be able to build community. So, we can agree with that, food, community, yay. And then kind of going all the way full circle, making people involved, and we're talking teachers, administrators, parents, and students. There's these four groups here. How do we work on making, a community is built with these four different groups? How can we explain to these four groups what is the goal of this? And I think the goal of this is going back to the very first talk with the Venn diagram, to find something that is right in the middle. We're trying to get the kids to be, doing what they love and make money at it. How can we make administrations, teachers, everybody else know that we are all for the same goal? And that's kind of what we talked about. It was just 5 minutes, but a lot of stuff. So.
That was excellent, thank you. All right, one left, Global Ed. Is there anyone that would like to present for Global Ed here? Okay. How about this handsome gentleman here? This is my brother Dan. He's visiting from Vermont right now, so everyone give a warm Texas welcome to Dan. So, all right, take it away, brother.
I'm the less stretched out version of Joe.
Hashtag less stretched out.
Hashtag less stretched out. All right. So, we have global education. We all as a group agreed that the most important thing out there was really being able to come together and learn on a global level rather than just a national level. The first thing that we listed was take down the boundaries that limit learning. Basically, give everybody the opportunity to access knowledge from all over the world, rather than knowledge that's just presented to them by their own country. If we are just learning from our own country, from textbooks that are provided to us by our own country, then we're only getting our view of things. By taking down these boundaries, we get to learn from everybody and get everybody's view. We have global access to shared knowledge. Again, as we grow together as an entire world, the only way that that's going to happen is if we are all able to access the same things. If we are not just seeing what our media presents to us, but seeing what everybody is able to see, then we're all going to be on an equal playing field. Avoiding global conflict. One thing that happens right now is when we go to war with somebody, the vast majority of the population probably doesn't know anything about that country. So for the most part, we just view them as evil. And in reality, people are not evil. I don't know if you guys have met these evil people that have, like you see in movies that cackle when something terrible happens, but I really have yet to run into them. However, when we go to war with people in general, we get this idea that these are all evil people. If we are able to actually connect with them and able to interact with them, then all of a sudden they're our friends, then we understand them and we can converse and we can avoid this type of issues. International students want to connect to the USA because we are awesome. Boris actually presented this, and you had stayed in China, and what Boris said is that, well, in China, one thing that he was amazed to find is that the Chinese really had a very high regard for us, and we carry some level of responsibility with that. There are a lot of people that are learning from us, so we want to make sure that we are putting our best foot forward, that we're representing our country well. Global issues need global education to be solved. looking at global problems with only our own realm of education, only our own realm of knowledge, is a very shallow way of looking at things, and we've come up with solutions that work for us but don't work for everybody. So global issues, again, global knowledge is going to be important with that, and online education increasing literacy, especially in a lot of places that may not have as much opportunity. Online education is going to make that a lot easier. And that's what we got.
Well, that was probably the worst of the 4 presentations if I had to pick one. Thank you, Dan. Great to have my brother here joining us for this. We've got a spot on the bus for you if you want to come along, take a tour of the South. I want to thank everyone. This was a pretty phenomenal start to our first town hall event, to our trip all across the United States. If we can get this type of participation and this type of passion about the issues in every city that we go to, it's going to be a really amazing trip. So I want to thank you. I want to encourage you to keep the conversation going. Again, hashtag trip to DC or drive to DC, hashtag these issues. But once again, thank you to Sean and EdTech Action for helping us put this on. Thank you for all coming out and sharing your insights. We're going to take them to Washington. We're going to see what we can do to influence policy and also just to build community and unite people from around the country to talk about these issues. So follow our trip online, follow our adventures through the South, and thank you again for sharing so much.
All right, so I know tonight has been kind of a crazy whirlwind, and I appreciate you guys sticking it out. We are just about out of time. I want to thank everybody for being here, and as a token of my gratitude, we have cake, thanks to Val being born. So, so thank you so much for coming. I cut the cake. I actually don't like cake, and most of it's because I don't like how hard it is to cut. So if you can work with the mess that I created back there, you're welcome to grab a piece of cake. We do have to be out of here in about the next 10-15 minutes, so I would appreciate any help you can provide in cleaning up cans, since it's Earth Day especially. There's a recycling bin around the corner over there, so if you can take any empty soda cans, beer cans out, I would very much appreciate it. So again, thank you so much. Lightning round I will post on meetup.com and on Facebook. Sorry we didn't have time for it, but it was worth it. So thank you guys so much for coming out.